And now to a story from the American South. In 1993, 3 young boys were killed and mutilated in the city of West Memphis, Arkansas. 3 troubled teenagers were convicted of the murders. 2 got life in prison while the other was sentenced to death.
Well, after more than 18 years behind bars, the men were released, but with a bizarre legal twist. The case is documented in a film by director Amy Berg, West of Memphis.
VOA's Penelope Poulou interviewed Berg and the former death row convict. Let's start with a look at some of that report.
3 young boys murdered in cold blood.
Damien Eccles, Jesse Miss Kelly, and Charles Jason Baldwin were accused of the crime. Their conviction, it turned out, was based on questionable evidence and false testimonies. In 1996, Paradise Lost was the first documentary to question whether justice had been served.
There were just 15 years of evidence and new information.
Amy Berg's 2012 documentary, West of Memphis, not only follows the case since then, but presents new evidence that focuses on Terry Hobbs, the stepfather of one of the 3 slain children.
So you've actually met one of the Memphis Three.
Right.
Tell me about him. How was his demeanor in the interview?
Incredibly intelligent man. He has studied law. He has studied so many things while he was behind bars. I was impressed. I, of course, cannot sit here and tell you, oh, by his demeanor, I can definitely tell you that he's innocent or guilty. He has a presence which emanates incredible intelligence, but I can also see how a lot of people could have seen him as a threatening presence.
So far, in the history of the state of Arkansas, I'm the only person who has ever walked off of death row.
He could almost be himself like a heavy metal rock star. And I could see how he would not fit in a small city in Arkansas.
And there was a number of celebrities lobbying on their behalf. Eddie Vedder's from Pearl Jam. You mentioned a few others.
Johnny Depp and Peter Jackson, of course, who gave the money.
How, do you think that played a role at all in, or did you get the sense that played a role in their release?
I wouldn't say played a role in getting them released. I think they played a role in the court of public opinion. The film was not the one that discovered the DNA evidence. It put it on the large screen, but showing that there was an actual hair tangled in the shoelace of one of the murdered kids and that hair belonged to the stepdad. This DNA evidence didn't exist back when the trials took place. We didn't even have DNA evidence.
And you talked about the driving force earlier, the driving force behind getting these young men out of jail.
Well, Peter Jackson was the driving force, the funding force, if you will, of the documentary West of Memphis, which was made by Amy Berg.
I think that the documentary stands alone as a reason to exonerate them and to prosecute the real killer. So we hope that the film can stand as that testament.
While Hobbs has denied any involvement, in 2011 the state of Arkansas agreed to release the 3 but not exonerate them. Damien Eccles, who had been sentenced to death by lethal injection, tells VOA that to get out of jail, the 3 had to take what is called the Alford plea.
You're still maintaining your innocence. You're saying, I did not commit this crime, but you're accepting their guilty plea. And a lot of the reason for it is so that the state can't be held accountable for what they've done.
As a result, says Eccles, he and the other 2 still bear the stigma of murder. Another presence in the whole driving force in the whole process was Damien Eccles' wife. They met while he was in jail. They got married. She made it her mission to help him, to free him. And she was the one who managed to gather more information on DNA evidence and drive actually the documentary from just being an informative piece into becoming really an investigative piece.
Penelope, this is not your typical beat. This was kind of a crime story that also became a documentary. So how did you feel about meeting somebody who had been accused of murder and still technically was considered guilty of murder?
Actually, I never saw myself as an entertainment reporter. I think film reflects life and influences life. I was lucky to have interviewed some people that have played an amazing role, from you know, from soldiers in Iraq to bullied children and kids who spoke how their fingers were broken in high school on the basis of the documentary Bully, and so many others. And I think this is where documentaries allow us to have a good peek at society.
Not only is the state getting away with it, but the person who killed those 3 kids is still out there walking on the street.
That was VOA's film reporter Penelope Poulou speaking with On Assignment's Rebecca Ward.